Genesis. How do you say Genesis in Hebrew, Brother Roger?
Exodus.
Genesis in Hebrew.
Bari.
Bari. All right. What does that mean, Sharon?
In the beginning.
In beginnings. In beginnings. In beginnings, it says Barashith, and the Hebrew Bible, the first word in that book will usually name the book. Where did we get our names for the book for the Old Testament that we have today, Brother Roger?
Greek.
From the Greek Septuagint, which we refer to all the time, don't we? We refer to the Septuagint. Well, what's going on so far? What's happened here? Okay, Abraham signs the covenant in blood, doesn't he? The covenant is signed in blood. Signed in blood. Now, 18 and verse 1, we start off another little episode here. Wayera, Elal, Hadabar, Be'elone, Mamre, Wihu, Yesev, Pithah, Hoekel, Kehom, Hayom. Look at this word. It comes from the word ra'ah. Ra'ah. I didn't say raw. I said ra'ah. What's the difference between ra and ra'ah? Ra, Brother Roger.
Well, one is like evil.
That's evil. That's right. That's A+. Ra is evil, terrible, wicked, everything bad. Ra. Okay? And the other, Ra, means what?
Show
It means to see. Literally to see. Or to appear. To see or to appear. And it's, what is the conjugation of this verb, wayira?
Third person masculine, singular, NFL, vowel consecutive verb.
A+ for that too. Now tell me how that should be translated.
And he appeared. Kept on appearing.
And kept on appearing. That's very good. He appeared and kept on appearing. Elah, unto him. Unto him. And this is basically a preposition with a what, Brother Roger?
suffix.
With a masculine suffix. He appeared unto him. Who? Who appeared? Did anybody ever see God? Abraham did, didn't he? All right, Jehovah Jireh means what? Jehovah Jireh. We have it translated as the Lord shall see to it. Jehovah shall see to it. But it actually literally means that Jehovah was seen. He was seen. So was he seen by Abraham? Abraham appeared. He appeared unto Abraham here. And appeared unto him Jehovah. And then it says, literally in oaks. Literally in oaks. In oaks. Be elone. Be elone. In oaks. Now the oaks mean to be strong and firm. Because oak wood is very good. A lot of furniture is made out of oak. Many cabinets are made out of oak because it's a very strong wood. Oak and hickory wood are very much alike. Oak and hickory wood are very much alike. By the way, the flooring up there in the little cabin is hickory. Hickory colored, anyway. In oaks, a mamre. Mamre. All right, what does mamre mean? Bitter. What names come out of this? Mary. Miriam. Miriam. All of these words come from this word which means bitter. All right, the oak's bitter. Now, how many of you ever had oak meal made out of the acorns. Anybody ever had that?
No,
You never ate that.
you have to boil it.
You have to leach it out because it is extremely bitter. You get it? Bitter. Okay? It's extremely bitter. So you go pick your acorns and you peel them. You crack the shells and peel them. You put them in a bag and put them in a creek. And you leach that bitterness and tannin out of it. Okay? And then you take it and boil it, and you leach it again, and you boil it and leach it again. And then the Indians used to take it, and then they would grind it up. How many of you have been up here in the mountains where there's places where they ground into great big granite boulders? They would grind this acorn mush up, and they would eat that. That was a staple of the American Indian in this area right here where the oaks are. But the word oak means bitter. Mamre means bitter. It means bitter. Okay. Mamre means bitter because oak acorns are bitter unless you treat them. Unless you treat them. How many of you ever had olives? Wild olives. I mean, not wild olives, but olives without their being cured. Did you ever eat one of those, Sharon?
Well, I just remember when we went to San Fernando Mission, and my dad said, "Oh, there's an olive tree," and he picked it up and put it in his mouth
And spit it
the
out.
look on his face,
It's bitter.
terrible.
Terrible. Now, how do you leach the bitterness out of olives?
Lye water. Right?
Lye.
Yeah.
Lye water. So you take lye. You know, that stuff's what they use to clean out your pipes. And you pour lye in a vat, and you put the olives in there, and you let them soak in this lye, and it goes all the way down, and it leaches the bitterness out, and then you begin to wash those and wash the bitterness, and you wash it until you wash the lye out of it. Lye is good for killing worms, too, you know. And animals. They used to give lye to pigs and dogs and everything to kill worms. So you're eating olives and you're killing worms, too, at the same time. So anyway, bitter. Mamre means bitter. Page 577 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs, and page 596 in Kohler and Baumgartner. And I showed those books to you last week, didn't I? I believe. I don't know. You may not have been here, Brother Roger. And he, we hew. That word hew there, that's the third person pronoun in Brother Roger, in Hebrew. And then we on the front of that is what, Sharon? That's and, a conjunction and, page 253. Page 216 for the third person pronoun. Now that can be masculine, feminine, or neuter, or masculine and feminine, that is, not neuter. Either way, in Hebrew. Yosef. All right, now let's look at the word Yosef. What about Yosef there, Brother Roger?
Well,
Yoshev, that
it
is.
stands for sitting,
Yes.
and it's a masculine singular cow particle.
Masculine singular cow participle, one of them continuing things. And he's sitting. Look at that. Pitah. Pitah means it's basically indoor or at the door of the tent. At the door of the tent. The Ho'alel. At the door of the tent. Pitah at the door of the tent, or the opening of the tent. Where you flap it open. Now, remember, I've told you this. I used to live in a shack when I was a little boy. And we did not have enough wood to make a big enough piece of wood to make a door. Just didn't have long enough or good enough piece of wood to make a door. So we had a flap. And you opened that flap. It was an opening, but it was a flap. And it was useless keeping the flies out with that flap. It just didn't work, by the way. And I know that there's a lot of flies over here. You just think, you can imagine the flies in that country at times that would have bothered them because they didn't have screens. We live in such a clean age today and such a toxic-free age in so many ways from vermin. They didn't have that here. They were rich in their person of God, and we're poor in the person of God and rich in stuff, aren't we? Who was just visiting Abraham?
Christ.
Jehovah himself. Jesus in his pre-incarnate form. It's pretty rich, isn't it? What could you more want than that? But yet we have him in our hearts, don't we? He's in our hearts. At the door in heat, kihom. Now, what is this word kihom? What else comes from this name kihom here, Brother Roger? Sharon? How about it? Was anybody ever named with this word? Now remember, the key on the front of it is a prefix. So what is the root of the word? Hum. 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 What about that, Brother Roger? Hum. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham. Ham. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. It's Ham, all right, but it's a home. But here we have the name Ham, which means what?
Heat or dark.
Heat or dark. Heat or dark. You ever cook bacon until it was black? Yeah.
On purpose.
Or sometimes a steak until it's black on the outside. Marilyn used to tell me that the only way she would eat fat at all if you burned it. A steak burned around the edges, then she would eat it that way. Her sister would eat the fat and she would eat the lean. She had a twin sister. They eat the fat and she would eat the lean, so they had a real good time together. So in heat, hayom of the day. Hayom. See that double yom in there? Double Y, so to speak, yod. In the heat of the day. Now, in the heat of the day, he's sitting out there in the shade, isn't he? Many tents will have a flap, and they take them up like this, and they'll tie it to the ground, and it is like a porch. So now he's got a homemade shade, and he's sitting in this homemade shade. You have, this house doesn't have porches on it, but if you go to Fish Lake Valley, you'll see more porches than houses. More porches than houses, because it's so beautiful up there much of the year that they just sit outside. Sit on the porch. One house up there is a 1,700 square foot house, and it's got 2,200 square foot of porches around it.
Oh, wow.
All the way around the house, because you have the most beautiful scenery in the world, the creeks on the backyard, and all of this around the front. Up here you see all, and you go out there and sit on the porch, and they'll have a dining room table here, and 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 another dining room table over there. Wherever part of the day is best, they'll just go out there, and they have these little picnic tables and all that all the way around the house. Well, Abraham, in his way, was playing like he was on Shadowitch Creek, and he was out there in the shade in the heat of the day. Wayisa. Inah. Wayar. Wihene. Sholosha. Anashim. Nitzabim. Allah. Wayar. Wayaratz. Likratam. Mipita. Ha'ohel. Wayishtahu. Aritzek. Let's look at this first word here. Wayisa. 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 And he raised or lifted up. He lifted up. Lifted up. Actually, what he did is looked up. He probably was sitting around here like this. Nodded off. And then he looked up. As it shows you a picture. He's laying down here half asleep or asleep. And all of a sudden he feels something that is unusual. And he opens his eyes and he lifts up his head. Like that. And what do I see? He lifted up the eyes of him. And Wayar, and he saw and kept on seeing. Look at this. Third person masculine singular Calwell consecutive and perfect. That's Wayisa. And then Wayar is third person masculine singular Calwell consecutive and perfect. And he saw. He saw. And kept on seeing. Kept on looking. And then Wihene. And behold. In Genesis 18 and verse 2. And behold. Look at that word. And, Wihene, and behold. What is behold there, Brother Roger? What kind of word is that? Like, pay attention in it.
Oh.
Yeah, pay attention. And then Shiloh-Shah. What is Shiloh-Shah, Robert?
Oh, it's a numeric.
It's a numeric, isn't it? And it's tria, or trace, or three in English. Okay? And then Anashim. Anashim. Now, what is here, Sharon? What's here? Three men. Who are these three men?
Well, they're, I think, well, they say angels, but I think it's the Trinity.
I think it represents the Trinity. There are two angels and Jesus. That's who it is. Two angels and Jesus. And it represents the Trinity. The triune God is upset. Simple as that. He's upset. And men. What do angels look like? Men. Okay, they look like men, don't they? They aren't little girls with curly hair and all that. They're men. They may have long hair and things, but they're men.
Could
Men.
it have anything to do with two witnesses?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, two witnesses. There in the mercy seat, above the Ark of the Covenant, are two cherubim, which are angels. It is what we call one cherubim is a kind of angel, isn't it? Cherubim is what? Marilyn, what is cherubims? What about cherubims that different than other angels that we can know about? Cherubim.
The cherubim,
Uh-huh. What about the cherubim?
they have wings and they overlook and they watch over.
They have wings.
Yeah.
They have wings. Cherubim have wings. Is Lucifer a cherubim?
Yes.
Yes, he's a cherubim. He's an angel with wings. That one caught you, didn't it, Sharon?
Yeah.
He's a cherubim. And the word cherub means what? What kind of word is it? Look at the end of the word, Brother Roger.
Well, that's a plural.
That's a plural.
That's plural. Cherub is singular, but cherubim is plural because there's always more than one. Okay? How many angels did Lucifer take with him on his expedition of rebellion?
1/3.
1/3 of all of them, didn't he? Okay? How many cherubims? We don't know. We don't know how many cherubim. We don't know how many seraphim. What does the word seraphim mean, Brother Roger?
Isn't it like heat?
What?
Heat?
Seraphim. Sharon.
Flame, light.
Flame.
Yeah.
Flame. Burning ones. Burning ones. Powerful burning ones. That's seraphim, okay? So we have cherubim, seraphim. And we have archangels also. Now, as far as we can understand, was Lucifer an archangel?
We can infer it.
Yeah, he was an archangel, or arch-cherubim, you might say. All right? How about Michael? He's an archangel. The Bible absolutely says he's an archangel. How about Gabriel?
We can infer it again.
Again, we infer that he is a archangel. Okay, because it mentions those three, and they are over many other angels. These are archangels, are what? What's archangel mean? Arche is what? What's it mean, Brother Roger?
In order.
What does arche really mean? What's it really mean? It's like Rosh.
Oh, the head.
Head. Arche means head. Remember? Aleph and Beth, the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And Abba means what? The head of the house. So we have archangels, which means head angels. They're over the orders of angels. Orders. And we have cherubim and seraphim that we know about, those angels. All right, 3 men. We have 3 men here now representing what many people believe as the Trinity. But there aren't 3 physical persons in the Trinity, are there? No. But these could represent that. But we have at least 2 angels there for what? Witnesses. At least for 2 witnesses. And there's 2 cherubim that are over the Ark of the Covenant as witness to all of the forgiveness of sins. Okay? That makes us happy, doesn't it? Because we know that we have those 2 witnesses when we're saved, don't we? They were there. When you're born, they're there. That you're really a person. When you're literally conceived, you are a person. You're a person.
And you have angels when you pass away.
Yes, and angels come after you when you pass away on. When you're conceived, when you're born again, and then when you die, you have angels come after you. Now, I don't know about people that are lost when they die, what kind of angels come after them. I don't know what they are. There's a very fascinating book written by a man that said he died and spent 90 minutes in heaven.
I just read that this week.
You read it this week. And it's a very fascinating story that he had. He doesn't tell you a whole lot about it, but, you know, we know that nobody else has died and gone to heaven and come back, so to speak. We know Lazarus did. Okay? We know Jesus went to paradise and came back. We know all those people that were there. I don't know whether this story is true or not. Maybe. He does believe that many people say they died and gone to heaven and come back are fakes. But he said, it really happened to me. He said, it really happened. He was a Baptist preacher. A pastor. And he was killed in a automobile accident in Texas. And they left him for dead because he was too mangled. And another preacher came by, and it says that God just told him, go over there and do that. Go over there and pray for this guy. It's prayer. And he believes that, he said he went to heaven. He saw his grandfather first. And he saw lots of other members of his family and friends that he had seen that had something to do with his salvation. They greeted him, he said. And he said it was the most wonderful experience that he ever had. He didn't want to go home. I know that I experienced something like this, though I don't remember heaven. But when I died, I didn't want to come back. They shocked me back to life, and I was upset. And Linda Glass, she thought she was dying when they were doing heart procedures on her, and they thought they had lost her. And she saw her mother. And she was extremely happy, and they brought her back, and she was mad. She was very upset. A person only should have to die once. I don't think it's so scary anyway for the saved. For the lost, it's got to be a horrendous experience. It's got to be the most horrible thing to know that there's no more chance. No more chance. You close your eyes in death, your heart quits beating, and there is no more chance to repent. There is no more. Nothing. You can't go back and do anything. It's over with. No more chance. That's when all the atheists believe. They believe. 1 second after they die, they're believers. 1 second after they die, Jehovah's Witnesses believe who Jesus is. Absolutely, they know who he is then. 1 second after all these Islamic terrorists die and say, Allah Akbar, you know, they wake up and realize that it's Jehovah, not Allah. And it's too late. Well, there are these witnesses. We see these witnesses. 2 of them. And Jehovah himself. Now, all of the blood of the objects of sacrifice in the Old Testament, their life is in the blood, isn't it? All right. When their lives were shed, their blood, and If you were a Israelite during the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness over here, see their Egyptian bondage. Now they wander for 40 years in the wilderness before they go into the promised land. Sharon, could you kill an animal at home and eat it?
No.
You could not do that. If you killed an animal at home and ate it, what would happen?
You would get the death penalty.
You would get the death penalty because you didn't have any right to shed that animal's blood. It was sacred blood. Okay? Sacred blood. And the Bible says you shall not eat the blood of animals, and yet people make blood sausage something. And when they do that, it is, and I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, I want you to understand that, but there's sacredness in the blood. There's a sacredness in blood, because blood represents the life of the animal. They had to catch that blood. They had to kill the animal. One of the priests had to kill the animal. Now later on they could kill it at home, but they had to give the blood a burial because it represented a soul that had died, a nephesh that had lost his ruah, and his basar and ruah and nephesh were now separated, as we do when we die. I don't understand all about that, but I know one thing: God demanded that those animals, the blood of those animals, be given a honorable burial. That's that. Three men. Nitzavim. Nitzavim. Nitzavim is masculine, plural, nifel participle. And that means standing. Standing. Elah, literally unto or toward him, is what it says. Unto or toward him. Elah, why you are. And this is third person masculine singular, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. And he saw and kept on seeing who? Abraham. He saw them and he kept on seeing them. You see that, Marilyn? He saw and he kept on seeing them. That's a state of being. He was mesmerized. He was hypnotized. He had to look at them. He saw and he kept on seeing them. And then it says, why yaratz? Why yaratz? And he ran to see. He ran to meet them. To meet, that's an infinitive, but it's got a third person masculine plural suffix, doesn't it? To meet them. Likratham. Likratham. Cal, infinitive construct, suffix, third person masculine plural. He ran to meet them. Do you see that lamet on the front of that word, Brother Roger? Right here, what does it mean?
So it means to, but it's an infinitive instead of a preposition.
Yeah. It's a sign of the infinitive, but it's also got a preposition in it too. It's got the prepositional idea also. To meet them. And then mipita. From door. And what is the from in there, Sharon? Where do we get the from? Where's the preposition? Mipita. Where's the preposition in this word? What is it? The M. That's mem, isn't it? It comes from mem, page 581 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. From the door of Ha'ohel. Ha'ohel is the tent. And then it says, Wayishtahu. 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 And then it says here, third person masculine singular, Hishrael, wow, consecutive, imperfect. And he fell on his face, and he stayed that way, to the earth. Aritesh. To the earth. He fell to the earth. Fell on his face, yes.
Okay, they've got to not look like three ordinary men for him to do that.
No.
I mean,
Abraham was a brave warrior, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was a great general. He had many generals
For
working.
him to recognize that these aren't just three guys.
No, this is something different. Something different. Different. Have you ever seen an angel? Have you ever seen an angel, Brother Roger?
I don't think I have.
You may have.
May have.
Have you ever seen an angel?
Yeah, just the back. It was really weird. I was in my bedroom. It was late at night, and there were shutters by the bed, and all of a sudden I saw through the shutters that were closed. I mean, they were all closed. I saw through the shutters, and I saw the back of this figure. It was like a soldier guarding. It was the weirdest thing.
Have you ever experienced, I mean, you may not ever see anything like this. You may not ever see an angel, but you see angels and you don't know it. I guarantee all of you have seen angels. You just didn't know it. The book of James says we entertain angels. Now, Marilyn, I know you had an experience one time. You felt an angel push you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were about to get killed.
Yes, I did.
She felt something push her. She was walking off a curb and a car was coming around real fast and something pushed her back. Now, God wasn't finished with you yet, was He?
No.
This guy that talks about 90 minutes in heaven, he was very angry. When he came back, all he was in pain. Pain, 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 pain the rest of his life. He didn't like it. And he was very upset and very depressed because he didn't want to, but he finally realized in his life that God wasn't finished with him yet, if that happened. If this event in his life was true, then he realized that I have things to do. And he meets with other people that are in terrible, terrible, terrible conditions. Terrible conditions. He meets with them, and he comforts them. And every time he comforts somebody like that, then he says, this was why I came back. This is why I came back. This is why I had to come back. Didn't want to leave that beautiful, beautiful presence that he believed he saw sincerely from his heart. 18 and verse 3 now. Wyomer, Adonai, Im, Na, Matsati. Now that Matsati, there is a Matsati. That's a real soft towel, isn't it, Brother Roger? Because it doesn't have a doggish in the middle of it. Matsati. Matsati. Hen. Be enika. Al na. Ta'avar. Mial. Avdika. Let's go back and look at this one. Wyomer. Conjugate that for me, Sharon.
Third person masculine singular, plural, vowel, consecutive, imperfect.
Third person masculine singular, cal, vowel, consecutive, imperfect. And he said and kept on seeing. Adonai. What does Adonai mean, Brother Roger?
My Lord.
My King, my Lord, my Master. That's what it means. Adonai ha'alvanim, as you look at that, that is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And who is designated as King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Jesus. Which chapter and verse? Revelation, the 19th chapter. Revelation, the 19th chapter. And he appeared. And he had a name on him that no one, on his thigh. Okay? King of Kings, Adonai ha'Adonai. And that word is several places in the Bible. Right here, he knows who it is. And then we have a conditional. Im. If, na, now. Okay? That's like a little adverb of time, now. And then matsati. Matsati. I have found. Matzah. 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 What's matzah mean, Brother Roger? Matzah. Bread, isn't it?
Okay. Isn't it a meal?
It's a meal. It really means to find. Matzah. When you're looking before they have the Passover, they look, don't they? They look for leaven in the house. They try to get rid of all the leaven, get rid of all the leaven. So anyway, it says, if I have found grace, hen, grace. That's like charis in Greek, like charis. I wish I had a blackboard. I could write that on there so you could see the word. You can write that word charis down there with it. Charis. If I found favor, charis. Charis means what? Grace. What does grace mean? What? Unmerited grace or favor. Unmerited face or grace. Grace or favor. Unmerited. Is there anything that merits salvation in your life? Is there? We've been studying about election, haven't we, on Sunday morning? Is there anything that merits election in your life? Is there anything that makes you better than anyone else? No. We're all saved by grace. Grace, grace, grace. Grace, grace, grace. Have I found grace in your unmerited favor in your eyes? In your eyes. Be anika. Not all, there is a adverb of negation. All right, all. Now, El is also unto, and El is also God. Those two, Aleph and Lamet, there are in many forms. Right here, it is an adverb of negation. Page 39 and 40 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Na here means I beg with you, I plead. Please is what he says. Please, please, please. Anybody ask you please, Marilyn? Please, please, please. Please, please. That's what it means. Please. Not please. Look what it says. Ta avar. Ta avar. Look at that word there, Roger, and conjugate that for me, would you? Ta avar.
Second person, masculine, singular, cow. Juicy.
Juicy. What does juicy mean, Sharon?
With force.
Juicy.
Choice.
Oh, no. Yes.
That's PL stem.
Yeah.
Okay, adjusive and coercive means what? With volition. Volition, volition, volition. Don't pass away because you want to. Don't pass through here because you want to. Please don't pass me by. Have mercy on me. Remember, charis. Remember the word grace there. Hen. I want you to show favor and grace to me. From upon, me all, and that's man, and then all, from upon your servant. Avidika. Avidika. What's avidika?
It's a possession, a slave.
It's a
Somebody
case of
paid
possession, which is what case? Genitive case. Case of possession. And it is a slave. Are we slaves of God? Marilyn, once you've been born again, are you your own?
No?
No. If you're your own when you die, what happens?
You won't be happy.
You won't be happy. Everybody says, I'm going to do my own thing in life. I want to do my own thing. You're either going to do Satan things, you're going to do God things, one or the other, either way. It's going to be one or the other, not your own thing. It's not your own thing. And if you're your own when you die, remember, we're covered by the grace of God until we come to the age of accountability. Remember that? And then after we reach the age of accountability, what? We're our own. And either we give ourselves to Satan or we give ourselves to God. We just aren't our own in all reality. We've used of one or two entities. Make your choice. Which one? Who is your master? Jehovah, Adonai, Adonai, or Lucifer? Which one of you would be your master in this life? I guarantee he won't be good to you in the next. Because he's just like everybody else in the next. Damned. 18 and verse 4 now. 18 and verse 4. Yakah. Na. Miat. Maim. We rahatsu. Raglikim. We hishshenu. Ta chath. Chath, and that's a TH sound, isn't it? Ha'aretz. Let's look at this thing. I remember a woman one time in a seminary where I was going, California Missionary Baptist Institute. Brother Reed was up preaching. He was up preaching on election. And after he got finished, there was an older lady there, probably about my age now. She was probably in her 70s or 80s. And she raised her hand. And she says, Brother Reed, I was a Catholic. And when I came and heard you preach the first time, I accepted Jesus with all 5 senses. With all 5 senses. He said, boys, take that down. I remember that just like you. Take that down. That'll make a really good sermon. Accepting Jesus with all 5 senses. Smell, taste, hear, feeling, the whole thing. Touch. All of it. Accepting Jesus with all of your senses. Smell, hearing, taste, touch, all of this. Sight. Guess what? Abraham's accepting this messenger with all of his senses. And we're going to talk, he's going to try to feed him. He is. And I ate this meal in Damascus, Syria a long time ago. Now, it wasn't as good as what it is here. Because back over there in the Middle East, you've been in the Middle East. How many times have you ever had camel milk and camel yogurt? There are camels over there that are like milk cows. They're milk camels that they have, and they milk these camels. And this camel milk is very rich milk, and they milk these camels. They will have, and by the way, you ride female camels, don't you? You don't ride male camels. Male camels are stallions, and they're meaner than all get out. Mean. A lot of times they don't fool them. They just let the stallions run free, and the stallions come and breed the females. They just leave them alone. They're just too mean to fool with. Now, they did bring some over here when they did the camel experiment right up here at Lebec. Who were the people that did that? General Beale and the head, who? Well, he was out here all right, but who was? Who?
Was it Truxton?
No, that's one of his sons, Truxton Beale. Okay. General Beale, and who was the head? The President of the Confederacy.
Davis.
Jefferson Davis. They were in that. He was the Secretary of War. And when the country split, they called for him and begged him to become the president. And Robert E. Lee, and you know about Robert E. Lee, he was the headmaster of West Point. And when his state went with it, he fought and fought in himself whether he could go with the state that he was part of or the Union, because he didn't want the states to divide. As a matter of fact, what did General Robert E. Lee do in the beginning? What was the first great revolt?
He arrested John Brown.
He arrested John Brown.
Yeah.
He arrested him and stopped it. And he was wanting to divide the state. He did everything he could do to stop the division of the Union. But when he got there, who was the greatest general that ever lived?
Lee.
Robert E. Lee. There was nothing like him. He could whip all of them. Did they whip him? Did they whip him what we call morally? Was the Civil War fought? They had to be immoral and illegal and radicals to whip Robert E. Lee, because he whipped the socks off them with much less numbers. They couldn't outfight him. They were scared to death of him. So they went and got the 2 meanest generals that ever lived. Vicious, mean, cruel men. Remember who they are? Grant and Sherman. And they won that war by cheating, by murder, by bringing in civilians and persecuting and wiping out civilians and wiping out everything they had. They burnt all of the South. The South never did that to the North, did they? No. Oh. Now it says, Yakah, 18 verse 4. Yakah, Na, Mi'at, Mayim, we Hatsu, Raglechem, we Hishenu, and Tahath. Haaretz. Now, we read this before, but let's look at it very closely. Now, do you smell something here? What do you smell?
Smells like gravy.
Bread cooking.
Oh.
Bread is cooking. I was cooking bread. It is jalapeno, sharp cheddar cheese, and onion bread. You can smell it, can't you? Now, I'm going to tell you something. When Abraham saw these people coming, he said, Sarah, get the bread maker out. Right now. Get it. Go out there and kill the best calf that we got, the best goat we've got. Go out and kill the best goat, the most tasty thing, and start cooking. So when these guys come and when he sees them afar off, she is already getting with it. She's already doing her stuff. And they're smelling the food as they come. They're smelling the fire burning as they come. Now, he had an army, didn't he? He had an army. And she just was starting to, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Does Carol sometimes, does she set people up? Says, get with it here, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. That's the way it is. And he said, get with it, girl, here they come. I want you to do it, and I mean do it in a hurry. Now, it didn't take 2.5 hours to bake bread back then, did it? That's what it takes me to bake bread. They baked bread. It wasn't unleavened bread, but they baked bread. They break the bread, and how did they cook it? On an oven that was not an ambient oven. They made tortillas, is what they did. They made tortillas. So they took this bread, and they pounded it up and mixed it, and with flour and water, and probably butter, and a little salt, and they threw it around, and they will throw it on this. They had these beaten pots, and they would throw this flour, this tortilla on top of it, and they'd take it and turn it back and forth and back and forth. And the Bible says that Ephraim was a cake half turned. Only soft in the head. It wasn't cooked all the way through. It wasn't turned. It was a flapjack not turned. Okay, that's what he is. These are flapjacks. These are, he's cooking flapjacks for these angels and our Lord. And he said, take now mi'at there. That's a strong T, isn't it, Brother Roger? See that teth there? What's a teth look like, Sharon? Teth. You know what that looks like? That's that last letter on that mi'at.
That would be like, it looks like a Y.
No, that's an ayin.
Oh. The snaky thing.
It looks like a snake, doesn't it? Yeah. Teth. Like a snake. All right, and ma'im. Take a little water. Have a drink of water. Now, how important is water out there in the desert? All right. You know what makes our property in Fish Lake Valley worth so much, Sharon? You know what makes it worth so much? The stream. Marilyn, do you agree? Have water in the desert is worth something. A stream in the desert is worth something. That's property. You can go down to Fish Lake Valley and you can buy a piece of property down in the flatlands for $1,000 an acre. But up on that creek, it's going to cost you 10 times that much. 10 times that much.
Well,
Because it's got water with it. What?
It's the creek that doesn't dry up.
Yeah, the creek that doesn't dry up. It's always there. A little water. Mayim. That's plural word, isn't it, Brother Roger? It means drops of water altogether. Now here, in the last few weeks, we've had a sky full of water. It calls it, what is it called? Something rivers. They call it rivers in the sky. Now, was there one time rivers in the sky? According to the book of Genesis? In the days of Noah. Get over there in the 9th chapter, we've got rivers in the sky. Well, we got rivers in the sky now, but not like they had, because there was a solid ocean in the sky. And the river's coming down. A little water. A little waters, literally. Waters. More than one drop. In Luke the 16th chapter, when old Dives had talked to Abraham, he said, "Send Lazarus over here with one drop of water on his finger." He wanted one drop of water to cool, to quench my thirst and my pain. Then he says, now a little water, waya hatsu. Waya hatsu. And that is masculine plural cal imperative. And wash, you're going to do with this water now, before they drink it, they're going to wash their feet. Washing somebody's feet is a sign of what? Respect and honor. Jesus said, if you want to be the greatest among the church, wash the other guy's feet. Be it the servant to them. Remember the woman that came in there? There's two women that washed Jesus' feet. Two of them. Two of them washed his feet. And his head would be toward a table, and his feet sticking out behind because he's laying down on his stomach, basically, or on his side. And she came back and washed his feet. Now, Jesus told them, they started complaining, "This woman is touching you. She's terrible. She's a prostitute. She's evil. She's full of demons. She is a courtesan." And he said, "Well, she's washing my feet. You didn't." And they said, "Woo!" He said, "Well, who has more respect for someone that he gave the parable of the pounds and all that?" Remember? He said, this guy gave so many pounds, he forgave this person so many pounds, so many dollars, and he forgave this person so many dollars. He forgave this guy $5, and he forgave this guy over here trillions. Which one is going to be more grateful? The one that was forgiven trillions, of course. There's no way he could ever pay it back, and he would have been in jail for the rest of his life, wouldn't he? A little water. And wash the feet of you. Now, basically, what he's going to do, he's going to wash your feet. And it says, why, we hishshenu. And that's masculine plural, nephal imperative. And it says, and rest against a support. The American Indians and these people had a lot of things in common. They lived in tents, didn't they? Well, we're talking about the Plains Indians, because my family, the Cherokees and the Chickasaws, and those people, they lived in houses. Those are what you call civilized Indians, because they had farms and things back there. The Plains Indians, they had farms and things. The Apaches had farms and ranchos and rancherias, you might say. All over they had fruit trees, they grew corn and everything. And where did they get the corn, Marilyn? Where did the Apaches get the corn? The Arizona boys in New Mexico. Where did they get the corn?
From the Indians.
From the Indians in where?
Mexico?
In the Northeast.
Northeast?
Yeah.
Northeast?
Yeah, Northeast and Southeast. From the Cherokees and the Chickasaws and the Choctaws. That's where they got it. Who developed the corn?
Down in South America.
It was developed here in the Americas. All the way up into Central and all across America. There were Indian trade centers from one coast to the other, and roads. The trailblazers, you know, these white guys, these trailblazers, all they did was follow Indian roads. The roads were already, they didn't blaze any trails. The Indians wanted to blaze the trails. There is archaeological evidence that the Indians came all the way from the East Coast, and how many of you know where Mono Lake is? I took you by Mono Lake a long time ago. It's right up there about where I live. In the Fish Lake Valley. It's just over the hill out there. That was a trade center. They would trade all kinds of stuff from the east and bring it out here, and they'd take things back there, and they'd bring things out here. And they found those trade objects all the way to there. And they had roads. And the Indians had back supports where they used chairs. It was a backrest, and they've set against the wall of the tent. And what Abraham is asking them to do here is set against the backrest in the cool of the tent. We got the tent up. I wish I had a blackboard here, because they would raise the edges of the tent up. The American Indians would roll up the tents, where in the daytime and the cool in the summertime they'd raise it up where they were this far off the ground, and you could lay against that thing, and the air would blow underneath the tent. That's what's happening here. You get the picture? All right. And rest against the back support in my tent. Under Nahath, under Ha'adis, under the trees. Now, do you think that old Abraham pitched his tent under the trees too? Yeah. What kind of trees were these? Oak trees. Oak trees spread out. They have a lot of shade. Under those trees, they have a lot of shade. Now, I'm sure they didn't have the problem that they had up here when King Marietta and his men went right straight up here. This is Bear Mountain Boulevard. If you go right down Bear Mountain Boulevard, where you go through Arvin and get up there into that area where there's a lot of alluvial plains and wash it down through there, right out there were a lot of oak trees a long time ago. But there was a problem with those oak trees up there, underneath the oak trees. Marilyn, you remember what's wrong with it being underneath the oak tree up there?
Up there?
Yes. This was wetlands back then, remember?
Well, when it comes down, the snows and the...
Okay, you're on the wrong trail.
They can...
Wash, yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to make your camp in a creek. What kind of problem did they have?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes. What was the real problem? Ticks. Ticks. Ticks were notorious in this area. And the ticks were always underneath the shade of the trees. Walking in Marietta would tie their horses underneath the trees and leave all their saddles and everything on them because they had to be ready to go. This is Zorro. This is who Zorro. This is the real Zorro. And they would go out away from the trees and they would lay down and make their beds out there, and they would leave their horses saddled underneath the trees and, of course, give them food there underneath the trees and everything. But they didn't want to lay around and get ticks all over them. So Joaquin Marietta had left Cantua Creek where that guy named Love tried to arrest him, and he scared them all, or they scared him off because there were so many. Those men are armed. Every man had a Colt Navy pistol. They had 4 of them on their saddle horns. They had pistol holsters. They had extra cylinders loaded. And they had rifles. They were armed to the teeth. Remember what happened. Joaquin Marietta was up there in gold country, and when America became, or when California became part of America, they disinherited all of the Spanish citizens, all the Mexican citizens here, and they took their land from them. They took California from them. This was the Bear Flag Revolt and all that stuff with John Fremont and everything. John C. Fremont. Anyway, they killed his brother, raped his wife, and may have killed his mother also, and hung his brother by the neck until dead, and they tied him up to a tree and horsewhipped him. And he told him, "You better kill me too, because I will kill every one of you." And he killed almost every one of them. He went to the law, but the law wouldn't protect him. And this is the Zorro story. And then he began to go and lasso these people and hang them by dragging them to death. He'd hang them and drag them to death, and he got most of them. The other ones left the country and gave no forwarding address. And he would take the horses out of here, since the miners were stealing everything he had, stealing his claims, stealing all of his money, stealing his gold, stealing his silver. He started going and confiscating their animals. But if a man gave him rest, like this, if he came upon a person that gave him rest, he would liable to leave him $30 or $40 or $50 in gold coin for a meal and a night's rest. He was a pretty gracious man, but he had a man by the name of Three-Fingered Jack. That's a real guy. He shot his finger off. Joaquin Marietta shot his finger off. Okay. When he was doing something wrong. They call him Three-Fingered Jack. Anyway, his family are over Paso Robles today. There's descendants of that family, but Three-Fingered Jack was a bad guy. There were 5 Joaquins. 4 of them were Joaquin Mariettas, but they had different middle names. Most of them were brothers, but they had one cousin. They began to confiscate all the wild Mustangs and the horses, but when they go and rest at a rancher's place and they'd give them rest, he'd leave them money. Joaquin Marietta, they caught all these wild Mustangs, and they only kept the best ones, and they'd take them down to, they would take them, and right here where I live, right out there in the back, am I telling the truth, Mary? Right out there where the fig tree used to be in the back was a spring, and it was a real sweet spring. And this was one of the only springs around here, so he'd rest right here, and right where we're standing right now is where he would sit and rest his horses for at least a week. He'd drive them all the way from the coast and all the way down the whole San Joaquin Valley and rest them here for a week or 2 weeks. And then he'd drive them again after they rested up and drank good water, and they'd drive them either over the hills down that way, but they'd end up in San Bernardino, Rancho Cucamonga. And then he'd let them rest there again, and they'd drive them all the way to Sonora, Mexico, and he'd get a lot of money for them because they was having revolutions all over. And he did that even after they so-called captured him and cut his head off, because they didn't do it. They didn't capture him. They killed Joaquin Valenzuela, which lived in Bakersfield. And they killed Mozo, I think was his name, an Indian groom that he had, one of his grooms. He had 2 great horses. One of them was El Tigre, and the other one was Mozo. Mozo, he drove all the way from the Sacramento area and drove that horse down there, and he was a stallion. And he was 17 hands tall. He was a gray horse. And he outrun everybody for 300-400 miles. He said, I want that horse. I could use that horse. He had some good horses. El Tigre was lame. He was riding Mozo many times. And over there, they Harry Love, I think was his name, he went back. He gathered up more soldiers, and he went back, and he killed and slaughtered a bunch of those people. But in the meanwhile, Joaquin Marietta and Three Finger Jack, they come down through here, and they come rest right here. Right where you're sitting. Right here is the horses rested. And then he drove the horses down to Arvin, and Three Finger Jack saw some Indians out there. And Joaquin Marietta was ahead of him, and he went up there. Joaquin Marietta went up ahead of him, and the Indians offered them, they had killed a deer, and they said, do you want something to eat? Have our food. Sit here, have food, and rest here. We have food and soup, you know. They had all kinds of berries and whatever, you know, that San Joaquin's full of, Joaquin Valley is full of all this good stuff. When Joaquin Marietta sat down and started eating with them, and then here comes Three Finger Jack. Manuel Duarte was his name. He comes up there and he gets his black snake out and he starts whipping these Indians and running them all and steals everything they have and steals all their food. With Joaquin Marietta objecting, but they took off, the Indians took off, went up to the Tajon Ranch. Right up above here. We're talking about right here. So I want you to equate this scene with that scene, okay? Because this is the wild country, okay? So they went up there, and those Indians went up there, and they talked to the other chiefs of the tribe, said, what are we going to do? There's a reward on the head of this man, and we've always been good to him, and now here this bad guy comes up, and the other guy doesn't protect us from him, so what are we going to do? So they slipped down there that night after they had gone to sleep, and their horses were tied underneath the trees with all their guns. Now, all of them had swords with them, long swords that they cut grass with, and they fought with. Remember in the Zorro, all this stuff, and the whip and all this stuff. This is all real. This is it. Okay. They go up here, and those Indians slip down there. You know, Indians are sneaky, aren't they, Marilyn? You married one.
Yeah.
We're real sneaky. They slipped down there and put knives to the throat of every one of those men in unison. Instantly, they took all of their clothes off, stripped them naked, stole everything they had. They stole their spurs, they stole their guns, they stole their horses, they stole everything. You mistreat us, we're going to do. And they tied them up. And Manuel Duarte had a couple of prostitutes with him, and one of them got away. They tied them all up, and they went, and they're all naked. And they go back up there, and they take everything else, and those spurs and guns were on display at Fort Tajon for many, many years that they took from Joaquin Marietta or Zorro. That's a true story. When Joaquin Marietta, if he was by himself, he would stop at a ranch house. One man up there, Batulari, he stopped up there, Batulari, and he said, my horse is worn out. He said, I have a good horse. He said, I will trade you my horse for anything, and I'll give you a lot of money with it, too. He said, no, I don't want to get rid of my horse. He said, that's a good-looking horse you got out there. He said, I'll trade you, and I'll give you a lot of money. I'll give you a better horse. And he said, well, you can stay here, and you can eat. So they fed him and everything. We woke up in the morning, And there was Joaquin Marietta's horse standing out there, which was a better horse, with a sack full of gold on its halter. This time, he didn't protect these Indians, and he got stripped naked. He lost his shirt, and they had to go back down there, and Mountain Jim, right up here above us, is the ridge route. And up there is a pile of rocks on the left-hand side. You go what they call that Lookout Rock. Yeah. And that's where Lookout Jim was. And Lookout Jim, he'd tell them where these people were, and here all these naked warriors are. And they go, here comes somebody, here comes a wagon train. They went out there and stole enough horses and clothes to get back up there again. They lost their whole cache of horses at that time. Well, Abraham is a warrior. He's a brilliant warrior. And here we have Jehovah coming to visit him. Rest against the support of these trees, under my tent, under the trees, and take a rest. And drink water. We're going to wash your feet, and we're going to feed you. And then let's go one more verse here, 18 verse 5. We ikham. Fath. Lehem. We sa'adu. Lib bihem. Became, that is. Ohar. Ta'avom. Avu, that is. Varu. Ta'avaru. Ki. Al. Ken. Avartim. Avadikem. Wayomaru. Ken. Tase. Ka'ashur. Debarta, that is. And he said, allow me to take. Allow me to take. Look at this word. First person construct singular, cal, what is the other? Cohortive, which means by volition. Allow me to serve you from the bottom of my heart, from my own volition. I'm not going to ask you anything, no money, no nothing. I'm just going to feed you. Just remember now, remember Joaquin Marietta and remember all this stuff. I'm going to feed you. And a piece of bread, a fath, lehem, a piece of bread, and nourish and strengthen yourself. Masculine, plural, cal, imperative. Nourish and strengthen yourself. The heart of you. Afterward, you may pass on. You may go on. You may keep on going on. Third person, second person, masculine, plural. Ye all may keep on going on. Cal, imperfect. Because unto that ye have come. It's providence that you have come here. It's providence. The next morning when that farmer up there saw Joaquin Marietta's horse out there, he wrote a little story in it. He said, I lost a good horse, but I gained a whole lot better horse. He said, that horse was worn out, but he was the greatest horse I ever had. And around his neck was $100 in gold coins. That's a lot of money. And afterwards, you may keep on going, because unto this reason you have come. You have come. You have passed over unto your servant. Unto your servant. And they said, and kept on saying, thus, certainly, you can do this. You can keep on doing this just as you have spoken. We will allow you to be gracious. We will allow you to be gracious. Have you ever had the opportunity to entertain a missionary? Hmm? All right. Your father was a minister, and you had an opportunity to do that. One time, a long time ago, I entertained a missionary, Maryland. I took him to Bill Lee's Bamboo Chopsticks in downtown Bakersfield. I think 18th Street, 17th Street, whatever street that's on. I took him in there, and I said, Brother Stoll, he was a Korean missionary, the most brilliant man I ever met, and you've heard me tell the story about him a little bit. I went in there, and I said, Brother Stoll, you order. He got to cook out there, and he started ordering in Chinese because he could speak all the Oriental languages. Every spoken language in the world he could speak, including Greek and Hebrew, which I was trying to teach him, which was a joke. I mean, this guy was brilliant. I'd get him up there, and he'd get them up there in that blackboard, which was 8 foot wide, and he'd write one word in one language, and all of the different languages all the way down to English, Russian, German, Latin, Greek, whatever. Hebrew, he just, remember how I do this with you? This is what it means here, this is what it means, this is what it means here. He did that. He'd write it in those languages. In Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, whatever. He could write all those languages. Never saw anything like it in my life. Anyway, he ordered food. He ordered shark fin bird's nest soup. That was $100. I didn't know this. I didn't know what he's even doing at all. He ordered all these other beautiful dishes, just wonderful dishes. And then they brought me the bill. I think it was $180 for lunch for 3 people. I paid it. But boy, I tell you, I had to muster some money up here. Boy, I mean to tell you, this really scared me to death. And I went to the church and told them about that, and they said, "What did you do that?" I thought I wanted to do it. I didn't know what was going on here. But I did taste bird's nest shark fin soup. Bird's nest is one of the most precious items in the world. You look it up. I preached a sermon up there in Fish Lake Valley 30 years ago called Bird's Nest Soup. And I talked about that. Well, Abraham offered them some precious commodities here. We're going to find out what he gave them. He gave them the fatted kid, and he gave them camel yogurt gravy, and milk, curds. The curds was the camel yogurt gravy. And he gave them all this in bread. And when I was in Damascus, Syria, the last night I was there in the Oriental Palace, they had this, and the maitre d' come out there with a brown, it was a white towel, but it was gray because it was so dirty. He come out there dancing around out there and puts this down. He said, "This is a special dish we're making for you. This is Abraham's dish. This is the angel's dish." And so I had that dish. But they kind of messed it up. Brother Madden sat down on, he took his dish. He said, "Boy, it was good food until they ruined it." He took it out and put it on there on the floor, and he said, "Kitty, kitty, kitty." I said, "You're trying to get us killed?" We're in Syria. That's where ISIS is, you know. We're over there. And I've been going by and seeing these 3 people hang there 3 days or 4 or 5. Well, I was there 9 days. For 9 days I went by there in the front of the courthouse, and they had 3 people hanging up there with their bodies dripping dead. I mean, this is a dangerous place to be in the world. Do you have any questions? Did you learn a little something? A little bit of something? I know I entertained you slightly, but did you learn something? Marilyn, you're smiling.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's have a word of prayer, go out and do something eternal. Brother Roger, would you dismiss us in prayer, brother?
Father, thank you for the opportunity to come here today and hear and study your word.